Hi, it's Florian, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to estimate time and money. That's two questions that are very important for management to know usually. They will ask you how much does it cost and how long does it take? And you should have an answer to these questions if you are an engineer. Especially when you are young, but also older engineers have an issue answering that, because when you're young you don't know how to estimate, and when you're old you know what can go wrong during a project, so you are not feeling well if you have to give some kind of estimation. And I see people going around this topic all of the time, getting intimidated if you ask how long does it take and how much does it cost, and they don't want to give an answer, and that's a bad thing. So that's something you should avoid. You should avoid not giving an answer. You should always have an answer to the question, how long does it take and how much does it cost? So how do you get to this answer? And how do you answer in a way that no one rips your head off in the end? That is something that people are worried when they don't answer, but usually it's not really something to worry about. But what can you do? So first of all, you should have an idea of how long it takes. And if there are some risks, what you should do is have an idea how long does it take if everything works as it should do. So if everything works out fine, no one leaves, no test goes wrong, I didn't mess up in estimating my own effort, all of these things that could go wrong, just leave them out. Give some kind of estimation with a rough, very, very rough Gantt chart where you see that's the first block I do the first 3 weeks, and then the next 4 weeks I will do that, and so on. And then I wait for a prototype, and while I wait I do something else. Not a very detailed Gantt chart, but something very rough where you can show to management that's how the project will work out if everything goes smoothly as it's planned. And what you should also have is maybe on the second slide or sheet or document the risks. So this can go wrong, that will cost us 2 months. Can go wrong, that will cost us, 3 months. And of course the normal risk, like someone can get sick or something like that, you should also have, but they are less critical to have, because that's something that everyone knows can go wrong. But you should focus on the things that are not obviously things that can go wrong in the project, and just deliver them together with your estimation. If you are in a company that is Scrum and Agile, and you extend the project that's already running, you might also use velocity and the backlog. But that only helps you if you are already running in a stable team on the project. If you have a new team, or if you have a new project, you cannot use past velocity. That's why you always need to be able to answer the question in a more classical way. Another thing you should know is that if you are very brave when you estimate, which doesn't mean that you estimate a very short time frame. It just means that you look like someone who knows what he's doing. If you say it will take a year, these are the risks, and we will mitigate the risks by doing these things during the project. And if something goes wrong, that's what it will cost us. You look very competent, and you look very competent because you are competent, because you thought about the things that can go wrong, and you thought about the things that you needed to do, and you could explain it to management, and not in a way that you explain it to the other engineers, but to really management. You look very competent, and this is important because you will get more credit. First of all, if you finish in time, but even if you don't finish in time, people will believe you that what you are going to do about it will work out. Of course, it has to work out at some time point, but usually it does. So I was never in a project that really failed because of technical problems. It usually failed because of market problems, but never because of technical problems. So don't worry too much about that. I know you do, because everything can basically go wrong in life, but don't worry too much about that. Look like you know what you're doing. That is very important. And you should also know what you're doing, not only look like that. Of course, there are other things that you should also do. One is you need to control your project during the project. So once you give the estimation, once you say it will take a year, you should know how the project is running. So you should have some kind of plan accompanying, even if you do Agile, accompanying the Agile release that you are doing. Don't just use Scrum and work from sprint to sprint, because that is sometimes goes along like a never-ending story, and no one knows why these story points are always increasing. So try to have some kind of like a loading bar from a PC where we are now at 50%, at 80%, at 90%, and so on, and define what these are. So define some milestones where you know that that's where we really are when you look at the project. It can be very easy. You don't need to have a rocket science approach to it. Very easy, and report on that. And if something goes wrong in your estimation, if you don't know, or if you see an EMC test failed, for example, of course you need to report that to management and then say that's the mitigation, that's what we do about it, and so on. But don't report everything that goes wrong. So I also sometimes see people who report basically every little detail where they say this chipset now we need to do something in the firmware and then that we didn't estimate. No one cares about that. Stick with the real problems and don't go into too much detail if you report these kind of things. Also important to know. You should also, if you see something is going wrong, and someone might ask you, what can we do to still make the plan? So what if you say, for example, say something went wrong, it will take a month longer. You will get asked immediately, what can we do about it? And your first answer shouldn't be hire someone. That is usually a bad answer. Because what you want to have is a team that thinks about their own processes and thinks about how they can speed up on their own. So what you want to have is a team that actually not only progresses in knowledge, but also progresses in a way that the performance goes up. So if I have a team of 10 people and their performance per year goes up by 5%, after 2 years I have a team of 11 people without hiring someone. And that's what management wants to see. So they want to see in the project, or maybe even after or before a project, what improvements did you do to your work? Maybe as an example, you had a release, a continuous integration of your software that took you 3 weeks because you had to do a lot of manual stuff, and now you automated some of that and it takes you now just 1 week. So you basically saved the whole team 2 weeks per release. And that's something you should show very much. So if you estimate, you should also say, this estimation, if I would have done that last year, it would have taken us 1 month longer, but because we did these great things in R&D, we now take 1 month less. And all of these things you should always have in your back pocket, and you should also be very open about that, communicate very open how you improved your work and the work of the company. That's also important to know. And of course, the last thing that you should know is the cost estimation. That is very important to track. So, and cost, I don't only mean the cost of the project, because that is usually just bound to the time. The major cost is usually the employee cost in it, so the salaries of the people working at it. But you also have the cost of the product in the end, especially if you do hardware, or even if you have a software and you need to host it somewhere on a server, you have these server costs, and you should know how high are they, because they have a huge impact on the business case often. So the COGS, so-called COGS, costs of goods sold, or the costs that you have for services around your project or for production of the device, you should track very closely. If something changes, you should know, and you should have a regular review on those. So how much does it cost doesn't only relate to how much does your work cost, but also relates to how much does the product cost in the end, because all of that makes out the business case, which is some topic I will discuss some time in the future. I will tell you how to do business cases. But as an engineer, as a takeaway, what you should do is you should not be afraid to answer the question, how long does it take and how much does it cost? Because if you are, no one will believe you. If you are not, you will make a hell of a career, because usually it turns out good. So as I said, it usually works in the end, and you shouldn't be afraid. And if you are the one who says that's what we are going to do and that's how we did it and so on, you shine basically. And if you want to get further in your career, then that's something you should do. And you should not shy away from giving estimates. You should not shy away from taking the risk of saying that's what we are going to do, because you won't achieve a lot if you do that. Even if you are a great guy and you know a lot about technology, this is something you should really do. That was it from me. I hope you learned something. Have a great day. Goodbye.